And I know they're not in LA because they're going, why are the brown people waving Mexico flags? It's like, bro, have you seen Los Angeles? Like, what the do you mean? It's not called the Angels. It's called Los Angeles. Why are the Mexican Americans waving Mexico flags in resistance against a very clear racist act by the federal government? Oh, they need to wave more American flags. It's like, yeah, really? Because clearly the acts from the Trump administration was not enough for you to say unconditional support to these people. The vast majority of Americans do not want to deport most illegal immigrants who lived here for years and are productive members of society. The fact that the Democrats are scared to fight on an issue where they have a 61-24% majority is absolutely pathetic. Yeah, also, this is not new, okay? People wanted mass deportations, right? Everyone said, oh, well, 60% of Americans want mass deportations. What did I say? What the did I say whenever those polls came out? Two things. Number one, those polls also have a second question that never gets brought up in media. When given two options, mass deportation or mass amnesty, the majority always goes with mass amnesty, okay? That's the second option is never discussed. And number two, these people are advocating for a thing that they do not understand. And it is up to both the media and, more importantly, the Democratic Party, the counter message, to show how depraved mass deportations would look like. And if the Democrats don't actually, one, talk about the humanity of migrants and how we are a nation of migrants and how these people are wonderful contributors to American society, that they're just working alongside all of us every single day, and how important it is that we actually pay them back, how we actually give them the paperwork, how we actually allow them to become more productive members of society that can take more of the amenities, they can use more of the amenities. When the Democrats don't do that, and the market is flooded with right-wing sentiment, you arrive at Haitians are eating cats and dogs. Haitians on temporary protective status that Trump offered them, by the way, just as the Biden administration did, are actually illegal aliens and they're eating cats and dogs. That's what the discourse was. It blew my mind. If you let these guys, even with liberals, okay, this is why I yell at liberals all the time. If you let the right-wing reactionary psychopaths drive discourse, they are always going to escalate. They are always going to say even more insane things, even more violent things, even more radical things, because they have not logically arrived at their position. They have arrived at their position not by looking at the facts of the ground, facts of the matter, looking at the facts on the ground, looking at empirical evidence. They arrived at that conclusion out of anger, resentment, and fear. They arrived at that because they have a white nativist attitude, a white supremacist attitude, an idea that like third world migration is actually disrupting American culture and ruining American society. We don't want to be around these blacks and browns. Like that's their mentality. That's their primary focus here. And they will do anything to try and radicalize average people every single day. And they did it so goddamn successfully. It blows my mind. They did it so successfully that Latino men were going, that's right. I, Jose, believe that we should get these bad migrants out of this country. It's like, bro, they think you're the bad migrant. They think you are also the third world guy that ruined the culture of this country. That's what they're saying. Oh. And now that this violence is unfolding, of course, people go, oh, never mind. I didn't like that. It's just like, as I said, the Uber driver who was like, you know, really devastated that he was watching his neighborhood get ripped apart by ICE agents and having his neighbors get packed up. ICE going to school graduations. Like, how insane is that? Where are these criminals that they're apprehending at school graduations? Are they apprehending these criminals at Home Depot? A dude that is so desperate for work that he's gonna do some drywall work, okay, for pennies on the dollar. That's how desperate that guy is. That guy's the criminal, really? Not this goddamn administration filled to the brim with rapists and you know, drunkards and psychopaths. felons. That guy who just simply wants a leg up for his family, guy who came here and is working in slave labor conditions with the hopes that maybe his next of kin will have a better opportunity, one that he is fighting desperately for. That guy's the criminal. You. And I want everyone to understand the only value that undocumented migrants present is their slave labor is not the argument that I'm making. I'm saying that it is additionally up, additionally crazy that that these people who contribute so much to society, so much to America, so much to our economy, so much to our culture, so much to what makes America great. Like one of the only aspects of American society. There's three things. I was thinking about this in the shower earlier this morning. There's three major things that I can point to that are still good about the United States of America. Okay? Diversity is one of them. It's a major point. Diversity is a major point. Diverse culture, better food, a better attitude overall. Okay, America's a profoundly diverse nation, and that's a good thing. Okay, and it is only a diverse nation as a consequence of migration. Okay, the other two good things are due process and some of the weirdly liberal quirks of our criminal justice system that ironically don't even exist in other OECD nations. You know, you're entitled to a lawyer. These are good things, right? You can't just be like unjustifiably detained for an extended period of time. These are good things that America still has. And last but not least, the First Amendment. And all three of these things are being ripped apart. The only good things about America are being taken away. The last remainder of good things that America offers its citizens unconditionally is now being taken away by this administration. And you got dumb hogs that are championing this, that are like, no, hell yeah, finally, authoritarianism is here. I was waiting for it. Because why? Well, maybe it'll destroy my enemies. Maybe it'll destroy the people that I have designed as enemies in my mind. People that I'm just scared of. Thankfully, the government is packing these scary people up. It's disgusting. It's also disgusting when you look at the situation. I'm a Californian. Okay, I've been living here for what, 12 years at this point. Right? I've been living in Los Angeles for 12 years in Los Angeles, California. Okay? It is one of the, with the exception of, I guess, like Istanbul and Ankara, it is the one place that I've lived in for the longest period of time in my life. Okay? I love the state. I love the city. There's many fucking problems. There's many issues, right? But I still love it because it's very diverse. It's incredible. It's great food, great weather. It's got it all. Okay. And I cannot comprehend how insane it is that an administration that has tremendous resentment for California, which is in and of itself as a state, the fourth largest economy on the planet. Like it has a larger economy than Germany. Okay. California as a state is the fourth largest economy on the planet. And an administration that is backed up by some of the most racist pieces of shit on the planet in the interest of serving some red meat to its most radical elements within his base are taking these incredibly violent actions that rip apart the social fabric in California. And it is so hostile. Like it blows my mind how hostile these people are who have never lived in California, who will never live in California, who will never live in Los Angeles. And they're looking at it from the outside going, hell yeah, this is what I voted for. It's like, F you, man. You. I'm not advocating when Brandon is president. I'm not advocating for them to come in and like sick the Gestapo on you for, I don't know, mudding or some shit or wanting to shoot your guns, right? Like that's a fear that you have fantasized in your life. That is a fear that you have created in your mind. And that fear caused you to vote for the Republican Party. And then the Republican Party turns around and goes, actually, we are going to use the federal government to destroy the social fabric of California. And you're like, hell yeah, that's right. That's great. Like, keep to your own business, dude. What the is this shit? It's so goddamn frustrating. This TikTok about living in LA and
who
going to the
only
protests is going viral. Yeah, I've seen this one
watches
too.
Fox News. She called me today. She said, "You need to get out of LA. LA is burning. Aren't you scared?" Meanwhile, this is what's going on in LA. Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you. I got snacks. Sometimes people look at me crazy when I say I live in downtown LA and they're like, "Aren't you scared to live there?" Tell me you don't get it without telling me you don't get it. Show me a city that shows up to defend its citizens the way LA shows up to defend its citizens.
Black community will always stand in solidarity. We're not gonna get out of the streets until ICE are out of our streets, ain't that right? ICE out of LA!
ICE out of LA! Police in LA are overwhelmed. We gotta send in the Marines. Send in the Marines.
Even the liberals that are like not even in Los Angeles, and I know they're not in LA because they're going, why are the brown people waving Mexico flags? It's like, bro, have you seen Los Angeles? Like, what the do you mean? Why are the Mexican Americans waving Mexico flags in resistance against a very clear racist act by the federal government that is targeting brown people? Of course they're going to wave Mexico flags. It's Los Angeles. What the who gives a shit? What do you mean? What the do you mean? It's not called the Angels. It's called Los Angeles. This shit's so annoying. Oh, they need to wave more American flags. It's like, yeah, really? Is that what's going to do it for you? Because clearly the acts from the Trump administration was not enough for you to say unconditional support to these people. You know? You have to see American flags for your sensibilities to kick in. Get the out of here. Meanwhile, the Trump administration is also unironically using that as a reason to be like, see, it's an invasion. It's a foreign invasion. It's like, dude, they're American, you idiot. They're American citizens. They're waving their heritage. Your optics game. Holy shit. The do you mean? What optics?
The Marines, meanwhile, the police in LA. Pokemon Go plan got their McDonald's delivered.
Yeah. Like there is nothing more American, and I mean this in a positive way, okay? Normally when I say something is American, it's a pejorative, but in this circumstance, there's nothing more American in the positive affirmation sense than being able to wave the flag of the country of origin while you are here, okay? What are we talking about? What are we talking about, dude? It's disgusting. If you take issue with foreign flags being flown at protests, go take that up with Israel, which is a Nazi country doing an ethnic cleansing campaign. Mexico ain't doing all of that, all right? Where's the smoke for St. Patrick's Day parade, you know? Oh, well, or where's the smoke for the Ukrainian protests? Oh, that's right, they're white, so it doesn't matter. It's not the kind of foreigner that we don't like in this country. To be fair, even with the Ukrainian one, people are starting to get agitated against that too because Donald Trump hates Ukraine too. It's so stupid, but Italian flags at the Italian Day Parade. It's an invasion. It's an invasion. All die on this hill. We're never going to reach their sensibilities, Hassan. We need to raise the American flag so that the narrative can't be twisted in the media, which is what it's going to be. They do it every time. No, dude. What happens every time is squishy liberals such as yourself actually fall into the same trap. You get dominated by the right-wing framing. And you actually lean on the sensibilities of a third party that you do not know exists out there, okay? The idea that there is a guy out there who's like, I don't really like that they're deporting people that are simply waiting for their paperwork to be processed, and I think that's an inherently violent act, but I can't get myself to be on board with these protests until they wave the American flag, until they wave the flag of the state that's doing that. It's the same principle behind Black Lives Matter, which of course ended up becoming a commodified, toothless version of itself. But that's exactly what people were saying with Black Lives Matter. They were like, oh, well, why don't we say all lives matter, Hassan? Why don't we say all lives matter? I was there at the protests back then too. I know everybody always was like, oh, Hassan, you never go out there. This is a war in the media. Okay. We're not trying to woo ourselves here. We're trying to woo the morons, the idiots of the country. No, dude. My point is the idiots of the country are not actually going to realize that these are good protests because they're waving the American flags. They don't give a shit. They're going to move the goalposts to the next thing. What is wrong with you? It's the same as like my haters. Here, I'll use a hyper-specific analogy here to Twitch streaming. Asmongold is like, oh, he'll never go down there. He'll never go outside of his house. He just wants to sit in his ass and cover the protest from afar from the comfort of his home because he likes the LARP. Okay. Then his chatters are like, no, he is there. He's like, okay, well, he's only on the top there though. He's actually only shooting from afar. He doesn't want to put himself in the line of fire. He doesn't want to put himself in danger. And then people go, oh no, he's actually in the front line right there. You're wrong. And then he goes, okay, he must be arrested because he doesn't give a It's not about defending these protests, because if you look at the cruelty that is going on with the federal government's insane enforcement, dragnet campaigns, arresting people at their place of business, arresting people for cooperating with the administration, with the immigration authorities, arresting them at courthouses, arresting them at schools. If you see all of that and you don't give a and you don't actually unconditionally 10 toes down support the protest, then a flag is not going to do it. Okay? That's it. So don't come in here, which is one of the only outlets, one of the only media outlets, one of the only communities that is actually doing exactly what you wish we were doing, which is to counter that misinformation, to counter that goddamn narrative and be like, no, actually, you're wrong. Optics are very important here. It's not. It's not. Okay? Optics are utterly irrelevant. Optics are only relevant for the squishy liberals who are going to find the next thing to grab onto to say, sorry, I'm a white moderate. I'm a white moderate, and I place a timeline on another man's emancipatory movement. Okay? The real thing to do in this circumstance is to tackle the issue head on. The real issue to tackle here is their lack of interest in trying to create a movement of justice, as opposed to the presence of order that they have in their lives. Because if you are from these communities, if you have undocumented migrants, or once again, undocumented migrants can mean people who are waiting for their court date. Okay, 93% of undocumented migrants that have court cases that are pending actually follow through and they go to their immigration court dates. Okay, remember that 93%. So these are people who think that maybe through all of this naivete that they believe that this government is going to do the right thing, that, you know, they are going to actually, if they play ball and if they cooperate, they will inevitably allow them to have the proper paperwork to live here. Okay, explain that to people. Explain the cruelty of the people. Okay, explain the actual problem. Complaining that people in Los Angeles are waving the Mexican flag is one of the most insane things I've ever seen. One of the most insane complaints I've ever seen. Netizens of Bilibili are loving your coverage of the protests. This is the day you wore your red star hat. Support for Super Earths. The Ministry of Truth is fagging illegal broadcasts. What is happening to my camera? My camera is tweaking right now. Hold on. Here, we'll just go with this then. Oh. All right. Today's look is so MB, haha. Black Ops Live demo, twinkling red star. Los Angeles has established diplomatic relations with me. I unilaterally recognize the integrity of the territory. Early Cuban military uniforms. Yeah. I think that a lot of people fail because of their own personal sensibilities. I think a lot of people fail in this because they think there is an optics game here that you can win over without actually just like addressing the root cause of why these protests are happening to begin with. Okay? Address why these protests are happening. Explain to people why these protests are happening. That is an infinitely more successful way to approach these people. If someone is saying, yeah, all of this immigration, like kidnappings and all this stuff is really f***ed up, but these guys are waving the Mexican flag and I can't find myself supporting someone who waves the Mexican flag. then okay, that person is probably not going to be on your side regardless. They're going to find another thing. They're going to say the same thing that they did with Black Lives Matter. Oh, I think that it's really up that the police are actually pretty racist towards black people in their policing practices, but I can't in good conscience support a movement that says like pigs, for example. That kind of language is very spicy. I don't like it. It's like, okay, so you misunderstood what was going on here. Every single historical struggle that has ever existed has been met with people that are tackling the problem from a privileged position and would rather maintain a presence of order rather than advocate for justice, because advocating for justice in this circumstance requires you to demand change. And oftentimes that demand is not going to come from the magnanimous nature of our politicians and our systems and our government that is designed the way it is. It's only going to come when it's met with force. That is precisely the reason why, regardless of how people have whitewashed the civil rights struggle, for example, there was a tremendous amount of resistance and a tremendous amount of unpopularity until the pressure was so unimaginably high that the dam broke. That's why I also always stress the importance of consistently pressuring and continuing to protest against Israel's genocide. Okay? It is exactly the same. It is identical. The response is identical. Asking a minority group to sacrifice their heritage in favor of assimilating to American culture, even symbolically, should never be a solution. It's also not a bad thing. It's not even a point of contention. I have no issue with someone waving the flag of Mexico, man. I think, like, especially in places like Los Angeles, but anywhere in America, it's great. It's wonderful. Why would you care? Why would that be a bad thing? You know, it's these people's heritage. It is a part of being an American. Okay. It is a part of living here that you get to do that. Yeah. Central Committee says liberal nitpicking and protest isn't some good faith advice. It is what they do to give themselves permission to do nothing in the face of fascist repression. Exactly. Well, see, I'm a good person who would totally fight fascism, but these protests have such bad optics that I can't. Very specifically, we had these exact debates about people saying ACAB in 2019. I literally debated Hutch on that point. We had to use the military to force desegregation. Exactly. People don't get that this is historic. Mexico is like the concept of the Basque country. Yeah, even Will Stancil had a really good take on this. I can't believe I'm saying this. I am not doing this 2020 it's racist to criticize protest tactics thing anymore. It was a catastrophic failure on every level. Okay, march down and tell them to stop being so Mexican. Good luck. You can either accept these communities exist and are proud and defend them, or you can side with the MAGA Nazis and tell them to pipe down, but for optics. This is a banger take from Will Stancil. What the is going on? I can't believe I'm saying this. I saw another thing that he said that was also actually very smart. He was responding to another one of these like liberal optics peddlers, okay? There was another thing that he said. It doesn't matter. Just like, dude, listen. The narratives that the Republicans carefully crafted against Black Lives Matter protests who were also overwhelmingly peaceful, but was met with police resistance at every point and only became chaotic as a direct consequence of police resistance. Okay. Considering that they were also, fundamentally anti-police protests. Of course, that was going to happen. The only reason why people went, oh, well, this was a catastrophic failure. This was a catastrophic failure by every metric. The BLM protests were a catastrophic failure by every metric. The only reason why they said that is because they didn't like it. Okay? They didn't like it. The thing, by the way, if you have any optics considerations still to this day, right now, the greatest antidote to that optics consideration and that liberalism that you still have in your heart and mind and soul is to attend one of these protests. It will basically rip away all of the things that you previously thought, okay, about like cops actually protecting and serving these communities, or who is the person that is you not getting shot with us is true. I'm not. What do you mean us? Are you out in the streets or are you on Twitch in the chat? Because it kind of feels like you're just in the Twitch chat fantasizing about being shot at. Yes. Yeah, okay. At least you recognize it. Yes, I will not be I'm out in the streets. Oh, okay. Maybe that's the reason why. I didn't see you. So I didn't see you when you were out in the streets. I love you. Shut up. I'm just saying, I didn't see you yesterday or the day prior. So maybe you're taking your sweet ass time to get out in the streets. Anyway, throwing bagels at the wall. Thank you for the 20 gifted subs. After your stream yesterday, I volunteered to be a legal observer for the National Lawyers Guild. Never had heard of them before. Thanks for your coverage. Hell yeah. Please read logs. I think I'm bringing up an important point about the protest. Debate tactics, not optics. Shut up. Don't get arrested is my take. What? In my mind, being picked off individually caused the motion to lose steam, so we need the most amount of chaos while optimizing the least amount of arrests. I unconditionally support the protest, and I still think that the protests need more tactics to further their goals and resist the opposing force. For example, people in the front preventing to be picked off by police and trying harder as a group to prevent arrests. I mean, yeah, they try to do their very best there, but it's like it's a massive crowd of people. I don't think that person is a Fed. Did you see Al Qaeda announce that it's Jihad Summer? Am I Al Qaeda? Because I announced it. Is Laura Loomer Al Qaeda? Because initially she announced it, and I'm also going along with it. Like it is actually Jihad Summer for sure. 2020 was Black Lives Matter Summer. 2025 is Jihad Summer. Now we're going to talk about the danger of sending in military. Because the reality of the matter is, while all of these protests are ongoing, Jake Tapper reposted, I don't care if you're raising Kenosha, storming the Capitol, or doing whatever this is in LA. No democracy can function when every group and identity bloc decides it has the right and moral authority to take its specific political disagreements into the streets. Yeah. Waving a Mexican flag or marching in the streets is not the same thing as burning vehicles and throwing bricks. People keep conflating them as if they're all obviously bad optics. Yeah, I am even less liberal than Will Stansel on the matter. Because I think that while, yes, burning cars is a distraction, okay, and ultimately dangerous for the protesters that are around, you will never catch me focusing on that at any point. Because I understand that this is a decentralized movement of angry people that have gotten together to stop an intense amount of violence. Nothing that these protesters can do will ever meet the standard of violence that the state maintains with regular frequency and force. Okay? Guys, stop talking about JPEG Mafia and bringing up JPEG Mafia in this chat, okay? Like, ironically enough, he's over here talking about how silly it is that people make their protest about defending me or some shit, which there is some truth to. Like, don't make me going to the protests or whatever the primary position of importance here. But what he's doing is even dumber. He's not out in the protests. He's just chirping from home. Stop arguing with him, okay? What are you doing? Anyway, I want to reiterate this point over and over again. No matter what, the protesters and the 1% of the protesters that like burn cars or whatever, or even some of the people that are opportunists who like go in, there's people that went into the Apple store, which is ironic because like it's the dumbest store to loot because automatically every single thing that you took is decommissioned. You're never going to be able to use them. But like no matter what these people do, okay, it will never even come close to the standard of serialized, systematized, legalized violence that the state enforces every day, including, but not limited to, the additional violence that even goes beyond the previously established standard of violence that people perceive as normal, like things such as poverty, okay? The structural violence of poverty, things like that are ever present, ongoing, beating the shit out of homeless people, okay? Instead of taking care of them. These types of things are inherently violent, and it's the type of violence that we don't even see. In order for the protesters to ever reach the same standard of violence of the state, they would have to be the state. They would have to literally have a militarized force conducting not even like guerrilla warfare, but like a militarized force with drones, with long-range acoustic devices, with full-blown riot gear, with lethal weapons and less lethal weapons that they use on the cops. Like, think about that. That's like, it's the standards are so distorted. The asymmetry is so crazy. So I always find it strange when it's actually other citizens, other civilians, other people that are not in the police force, other people that are not in the military, or other people that are not in government that turn around and say, no, I can't believe they burned a car down. It's like, yeah, that's up. Okay. It's up. It's up. But you are insane if you think that that is up, but the other shit that's happening that the state is doing is not a million times more up. Like, focus on the real harm here, please. Okay? And guess what? There were a lot of clashes, right? Born out of the police's incredibly violent reaction to people protesting that took place yesterday. But as opposed to the first day, the property damage was far more limited. And the reason for why the property damage was far more limited is because cops were not escalating to the same degree as they did the first day. Okay? That's it. Because the standard of violence is always dictated by the party that holds all of the power. The state dictates exactly what kind of violence will happen in retaliation to the level of violence that they are presenting towards people who are protesting. Is it effing? What? What happened? What? That was weird. I'm fine on here. I don't know what's happening. I'm still here. Nothing on my end. Refresh. That was the weirdest stutter I've seen in a while. Maybe the feds are coming after me finally. Twitch is silencing you? Yeah, maybe. But I hope you guys understand this, okay? What I'm stating here is not crazy. What I'm stating here is the opinions that I've developed after both doing a decent amount of reading on this matter, looking at historically important events that are comparable to the ongoing civil struggles that exist in modern society, and also my own personal experience that I'm trying to share with you from going to these goddamn protests. Do you understand? And I know for a fact that if you were to attend one of these things, you would recognize, very quickly you would recognize that you are surrounded by like-minded individuals, and it is an incredible feeling. It is an incredible feeling to experience that solidarity. Like-minded individuals who care for one another, who are there to share resources with one another, to engage in acts of mutual aid, and that the real fear and the real violence that you meet is not by your fellow protesters, but instead is by the cops. You are safe in the crowd, and with the tremendous numbers that you have, you recognize that, like, when you do a show of force, a demonstration, the only thing we have as citizens is the number of people that we have on our side. Okay? We have the numbers. They do not. And the state realizes that. Okay? Which is why they implement tremendous use of force. We have the numbers. They do not. They have the weapons, they have the power, and the power that they have is because we have the numbers. This is why I try to urge people to participate in these protests, participate in these demonstrations. Okay? At some point, you have to pick whether you will defend immigrant communities as they actually exist or will only defend them if they shape up and start acting American enough. And frankly, the rhetoric about the protests is telling me that too many liberals are picking option 2. If liberalism can't defend the lived reality of pluralism, only some idealized version where everyone acts in the exact way we assume would most appeal to middle America, we've already lost. And frankly, even if they did act like that, the far right would still demonize these people because their hate is mostly rooted in hallucinations and demagogic lies. Exactly. Will Stancil is popping off. He's right. Can't believe I'm saying this. Anyone that does not actually offer support by recognizing the real vector of harm here, which is the state's ridiculous enforcement of violence upon communities that do not deserve it at all, okay, is basically giving ammunition to the Republicans. One of the funniest things I saw, by the way, going back to like narratives, rhetoric, and how silly all of this stuff is, and I have to point this out, is yet another fellow former friend of mine who turned evil. Okay, XQC. Here it is. I saw his community is eating him alive because, you know, he was a relatively progressive individual back in the day, and he developed a huge community of somewhat progressive juicers, right? Maybe they hate me, and that's fine. But ultimately, still, they are, there are a lot of progressive people here in his community, and they're all mad. And hey, hello, XQC fan, hello, post, hashtag bring this back. Okay, this person doesn't even follow me, by the way. This is like a real XQC fan. His entire account is dedicated to XQC. He's a juicer, right? He's stuck through his juicer through thick and thin, even with the gambling pivot, even with the Aiden Ross arc, and he's still like, please, dude, bring this XQC back. To which, and this is a tweet I'm going to read to you because back then, this is a very narrow focus that I will explain to you about how so many people signal what their politics are, especially people in our space. Okay? People in the space of Twitch, people on YouTube. If you recall, if you're old enough, Black Lives Matter did not start under the Trump administration. It reached its apex point under the Trump administration, but it did not start under the Trump administration. Black Lives Matter started with, I believe, Ferguson, and maybe even you could point to George Zimmerman as well. Initially, in the aftermath of nope, not 2000, and I think it was, it started all the way back in 2014. It started under Barack Obama. Okay, it started under the Barack Obama administration. Liberals at the time actually were incredibly anti-BLM. Why do I know this? One, because I'm old, and two, because I was in support of Trayvon Martin, Ferguson and Trayvon Martin. I was, of course, in support of the movement against police brutality, specifically targeting black communities back then. And I would write a lot about this issue. I would write a lot about this asymmetry in using the same methodology and the same language that I use right now, because unfortunately, the systems of cruelty do not change. If anything, they get worse and they calcify, they harden. Okay? So, at the time, many prominent liberals, Obama included, while simultaneously saying Trayvon Zimmerman could have been my son, would then also call, after Ferguson, the Black Lives Matter movement thugs. Okay? That's what he said. He said these were thugs. Or I believe, I don't know if he used the word thug or if he used the word uppity. It's like one of those racialized terms that he used. Okay? Also at the same time, you had Jim Comey, who was the FBI director at the time, when people were pushing for body cameras to be given out. You had the likes of FBI Director Jim Comey claiming that the body camera footage is making police brutality worse. Oh, he used the term thug. Did I say Trayvon Zimmerman? Oh, Trayvon Martin. I'm so sorry. for saying Trayvon Zimmerman. George Zimmerman was the white supremacist psychopathic killer of Trayvon Martin. Barack Obama used the term thug. RBG used the term uppity. Ruth Bader Ginsburg, something along those lines. Anyway, these are racialized terms. But the reason why I'm bringing this up is because only after the wave of anti-Trump protests and the wave of liberal resistance after Trump's victory and Trump putting the crosshairs on Colin Kaepernick and also the Black Lives Matter movement, did liberals actually get on board with this? The No Kings movement that is existing right now, that's going to happen on Saturday, or the 50501 movement. Like, these are liberal movements, right? They're massive. They're massive forms of protest, but they're ultimately liberal. They don't have that same radical element. They don't fully understand why they're protesting. They just like hate Trump, right? Or they hate like some aspects of Trump's governance, but not all. But only after Donald Trump stood in opposition to BLM did liberals actually universally condemn Donald Trump, universally condemn all lives matter style narratives, and get on board with Black Lives Matter. Now, in the aftermath of that, of course, Black Lives Matter became commodified. You had Walmart throwing up the black fist while simultaneously still funding their local police unions and things of that nature, you know. It became an aesthetic. It created a permission structure where you were expected as a human being with, an observable conscience, you had to say you're pro BLM, you're pro Black Lives Matter. This is a great example of people who were not even thinking twice about openly stating their support. June 8th, 2020. XQC tweets, in all caps, "It is a shame it has to even be stated, but of course, hashtag Black Lives Matter. We love you. Keep fighting the good fight so everyone understands this. I want everyone to feel safe, respected, and have all the same opportunities to do great." To which XQC himself didn't realize he had tweeted this and said, "The replies on this really give good insight on how much fact-checking is being done on X these days. Most of the replies are saying he changed. LMFAO. Literally not a single person even verified if the tweet was real. Cringe. I guess he was right, because he was one of the people who didn't even verify that the tweet was real. And then he realized it was real. He said, wait, the tweet is real. Ah, ha, 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 ha. I'm not even going to delete the main reply. That's just too good." The most embarrassing thing, when you have no beliefs and you're just grifting along with the permission structure, this is what happens. When you, because this take in and of itself is so stupid. It's like, there's no way I would have defended black people in 2020. Like, that's your argument now? That's who you've become? That's so stupid, dude. What is a permission structure? I'll explain. The permission structure is, before 2021, if you were to say correctly that Israel is an apartheid state, people will say you're anti-Semitic. You'd get shunned. Okay? You'd get shut out from mainstream opportunities, things of that nature. Okay? I still did, regardless, because it's the truth. But now, if you say that in 2025, nobody thinks it's inappropriate to say. Same thing with Israel doing a genocide. In the aftermath of October 7, if you were to say a couple months into Israel's genocidal campaign, if you were to say Israel's doing a genocide, people would say, oh, you're anti-Semitic. Now, most people understand that Israel is doing a genocide. Because as time moves on and as more people recognize, as more protests happen, as more people recognize the depravity of the situation, okay, there is more people exhibit comfort to be able to say what they truly mean, or when it reaches a boiling point, they are expected to say the quote unquote right things. Okay. Also, here's Donald Trump at the military demonstration. We're obviously going to tune into it in a second. But before I do, understand that guys like this are just simply doing it, not because they actually believe it, or maybe he did believe it at that point and doesn't anymore. But in most circumstances, They're doing it because they're expected to. They're doing it because they want to show that they're a good person. Okay? That's it. They will never get there until it reaches a boiling point. For some, for some in even this community, like in this space that we're in, they are fearful of repercussions. They are fearful of not being able to like defend their position and maybe not articulate their position well enough. And therefore they are apprehensive at first to say like, yeah, I think what ICE is doing is fucked up. They might believe it, but they won't say it. For others, they are fearful of the repercussions of like coming out against a domineering force in politics in this space that we occupy, like the XQCs and the Asmengolds of the world, where they don't want to say something then and offend the sensibilities of Asmongold and basically create this unimaginable wrath for themselves because no one is able to deal with the sequence of the endless torrent of harassment, right? So then they just stay quiet. And what I think a lot of those people don't realize, a lot of those people that are not like inherently political people, right? Or they're not like political commentators or whatever. What those content creators don't realize is that like if you don't build a permission structure to say, no, what the administration is doing is wrong and people that are defending it are also wrong. If you don't do that, then the only voices that you hear are going to be voices like Asmongold and his community, and it creates a permission structure for right-wing attitudes to fester. Okay? And that's what happened since the Trump administration's victory. And a lot of these guys that are content creators themselves basically move along with clout. The tech tones of the world, the Asmongolds of the world, the more domineering a force that they become, the more other content creators that are in the periphery look at that and go, I guess this is like, I guess I have to be kind of right wing. Or if I'm not, I'm just going to shut the f up. That's it. The reason why I'm narrowing in on this incredibly specific, Twitch streamer orbit is because the exact same structure occurs in mainstream institutions as well. The exact same cultural shift occurs, and that's how you arrive at the entire media apparatus basically only framing immigrants from an incredibly right-wing perspective. What is happening? Why does it keep effing, dude? What the f? There is no issues on my end. There are no issues on my end at all. It's got to be on the Twitch side. Anyway, let's hear what our big, beautiful president is saying. Hasan Reaction is one of the best ones in the React channel.